And Matt, do you want to do the intro or do you want me to do the intro?
I don't remember. What did we do last time?
I don't know.
I don't know. All right, so
why don't you roll for it? Honestly,
that's right. We roll. we need a dice roller. And oh wait, hold on. Okay, shit. You make me actually get a die.
Oh, I got mine right here.
Your graying dice bag.
No, look, it's still good. It's just got some.
Are we rolling? Are we rolling a d20? Is that how that's working?
I only got D6s right here.
All right, I got a d6. I got them all.
So
you ready?
high roll goes.
High roll goes. Okay. I got a 6.
Got 2.
All right.
Pandemic trapped a bunch of aging role-playing gamers in their homes, forcing them to crawl out of their pen and paper comfort zone and into the online world of virtual tabletops and video calls. So join them as they raise the curtain to share their stories, insights, and love of all things geek. So grab your longsword and your +1 bottle of Viagra and get ready for another episode of Advanced Age Role-Playing Gamers Podcast. That's a lot of syllables for one sentence.
Welcome to the Advanced Age Role-Playing Gamers Podcast series of Meet the Cast. Today we're going to meet Tyr.
Hello, everybody.
All right, Tyr. So we just want to get a chance to sit down with you and ask you a few questions about yourself and sort of your history with gaming. I'm here, and I've also got co-host Nathan. He's going to be asking some questions as well. And if you we want to expand on it, go ahead. So I'll just go ahead and I'll get started. It's really just for you. So go ahead. Please introduce yourself.
Well, hi, everybody out there. I'm Tyr, otherwise known as John. Funny story. I know you guys are going to ask about it. Why am I calling me Tyr? Like, why is that my name? It's a nickname from college. Ask me details later. I'll tell you, especially if you have a drink in hand. It's no problem at all. I'm a environmental scientist, health and safety, sometimes weenie. And I've been gaming most of my adult life since I was about 12 or 13 years old.
So I guess that dovetails in. So we're going to say, when did you start playing role-playing games?
I would have to say, and it's hard to remember because, God, it literally has been that long ago. It'd have to be around, say, 1988, I would imagine. I remember talking to my friend Jay Myers, who lived down the block from me in New Jersey. We had just become friends. It was the first time I had a friend who didn't live within 2 blocks of me. We had gone to school, and I said something about games. And he's like, "Oh, I've got a great game for us to play. It's called Dungeons and Dragons." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, that sounds great." And went over to his house and made a character and played a few games, and I was hooked from day one. In fact, I think we only played maybe 2 sessions before something happened. We never played again. But after that, I got bit by the bug, and anything I could do after that was related to gaming or role-playing game, I wanted to do. I mean, it wasn't until college that I really met groups of people who were really into it. But yeah, I mean, it just exploded from there.
Cool.
Yeah. So after D&D, what else? What did you play? What's the first system you played after D&D?
So I started with, Jay and I, we actually even got my little brother to play a session, which he would never do today. We played the red D&D box set, where you took the crayon and you colored in the depressions on the die. That was my first introduction to gaming. Like after that, I think the next game I played was AD&D. Like I found an old beat up copy of Dungeons Master's Guide. I mean, like dog-eared and whatever. And I read it cover to cover several times. Oh, there you go. There's the TS. There it is. Wow, that's not the same one I had. That one had the red dragon on front. That die looks.
You need a new crayon.
Yeah. It was the classic. Yeah, it had the red dragon on front, the fighter with the shield and the sword. I mean, it was one of those things like I mean, just looking at that picture, I can remember spending like an hour just looking at that picture, just thinking about the story in my head. I mean, you know, then I went and I found a bunch of books and stories. I started board gaming at that point. I think after that, but before I went over to AD&D, I played Talisman.
Oh yeah.
Warhammer board game. Did not know how to play. The set I got had no instructions. It was a used set. So I had to figure out how to play the game. And I had a group of people and we'd play it all the time. We played that thing till it was broken, bent. We had thrown it up against the wall in frustration. But anything to scratch that itch, like to get that bug, like, because I loved it so much. And yeah, and then I went straight over to AD&D.
Cool.
All right. So do you remember what your first character was?
Oh yeah, with that box set, if I remember correctly, there was no class or race. It was all the same thing. I remember playing an elf who was kind of like a fighter mage, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, yeah.
His name was Hunt because it was 1988, and guys like Cliff and Flint and what have you. They all the GI Joe guys had one name, so why couldn't my character? I tried to give him like a fake elvish name after I finally read Tolkien and what have you, but no, that's I even created him in AD&D later on to try to continue that, but there was just so much to do after that, and so many possibilities to explore, so many worlds, so many different characters.
Cool. So do you have a favorite game system right now?
Man, that is really tough. I mean, I still love D&D to this day, I have to say. I mean, I know it's not perfect. It's really not. And I spent a long time away. I mean, my whole time when I was living in Europe, I didn't play. The whole time I was in Afghanistan, obviously I didn't play because there was no fun there. That's almost 10 years.
Yeah.
4 years in Europe, 4.5 years in Afghanistan, where I was just away. And it was good because I got to skip the whole 3.5 edition thing. I've heard that wasn't a lot of fun. But I still default back to D&D. Yeah.
All right. Do you have, so we talked a little bit about your first character. What are a couple of your favorite characters you've played and why?
Matt, you're going to know this real well because from GURPS Fantasy, my psionicist. I don't know if you know this, but I created that character specifically to annoy the rules lawyer, James, in that game. Like, he was designed specifically to annoy him because I couldn't stand the character that James had in that game.
He had the wild mage, right?
If James is listening to this, I love James as a person, but I could not stand that character. And all I wanted to do was have a character that could either foil him or possibly kill him. Because he was playing an overpowered mage. He was, just packed double. He was some kind of double powered wild magic mage.
Yeah, I think he was like a wild mage who upped like the local level around him or something weird like that. Yeah,
where if he critically failed, he super critically failed.
Right.
He did all this stuff, and he didn't care about anybody else there. And I remember because we played the first, I don't know how many sessions before anybody even found out that I was playing a psionicist. he just pretended to be a fighter who was who was a squire to one of the kings who got attached to the party. I wouldn't even say it. I wouldn't put my powers out just because I didn't want him to know. And it turned out this character who was just basically made to be a foil to bother this one guy turned out to be one of my favorite stories I've ever created. Like, he's just so in depth about what happened to him. I mean, he wound up traveling back in time. He had a legend after him. Like, people, would say the name, and we got back to the regular campaign after I don't know how long of a break, and people were telling stories and legends, and only I knew that was my character. And it was absolutely fantastic. Our GM Malcolm, who is just a wonderful person, he just wove a story that I've never forgotten. I really thought about writing it into a book, it's converting it into novel form.
Yeah, it was a very well Malcolm's very good at painting a very colorful tapestry for his worlds. Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
Cool.
Yeah,
And he,
unlike us.
he put the background, he put the canvas, and we went from there. All of us did. I mean, almost every character in that game who I didn't even think could have a good background just really did. Like, they came into it with so much flavor, you know.
All right.
Yeah. So, what keeps you playing role-playing games?
I like the creative outlet. I really do. I love sci-fi and fantasy. I love to read. I love to immerse myself. That's my genre of choice when it comes to TV and movies and what have you. But I also like to create, and I like to, make part of my own story, even if it's not my own, complete in my own story. Even the games that I run, where I'm the GM. All it does is let me paint the empty background, and the players fill that with their stories. And I enjoy that process of creation. I mean, it's never what you expect, and you guys both know that.
Yeah.
You've run how many games, and you expect the players to go from A to B, but they wind up going down to Z, D, and Q first, and then maybe they get to B. But it's a great process, and I enjoy it. It utilizes a part of my brain that I don't get to use anywhere else, and it helps keep me alive. Honestly,
That's nice. Being alive.
So given all, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, some people wouldn't say that, but
Well, so given all that, so why do you think role playing games are so popular today? I mean, we all went through the sort of role playing game is the devil, or I myself. So I said, I know people who still won't admit in their workplace that they play, but now it seems like it's everywhere. You've got stars. But why do you think it's so popular?
I think it's the change in our society. Honestly, look back 50 years, look back 30 years, look back further than that. We all had different kind of outlets, but a lot of those were outdoors, sports and groups. And, when I was a kid, you could get on a bike and you could bike down the street and stay out to the street lights got dark, and then you'd come home. People aren't comfortable with their kids doing that these days. Now it's play dates, and you go here and you go there and you go meet up here at this park. A lot more constrained. Like, when adults, again, I wasn't, when I was a kid, I'm looking at it, but, you had larger, maybe our society was more agrarian when we were older. We got outside and we, even if we weren't, that wasn't our main job. We all had gardens and we all did this. There's actually a study done in the 70s in Germany where people would go out, they were increasingly disconnected and discomforted with their modern lifestyles, being in their apartments in the big city and what have you. And this guy said, you gotta go out and you gotta connect with something. And you gotta go out, he said, go out and connect with nature, but you can't afford it. You live in a city. So what the German government did was take a bunch of useless land under, on-ramps to highways, and land next to power lines and things like land that you just couldn't build on. And they broke it up into tiny lots, and they let people lease it for 99 years. These little tiny lots, and they're called, and the scientist's name was Schreber. And I'm probably butchering his theories, and I apologize, Dr. Schreber. But it gave them something to do outside their normal life. So they could go out and they could feel the earth, and they could make a little garden, and they could put their energies into that. And it's made people great. I mean, people wound up building these little sheds and staying out there all weekend. You couldn't have plumbing or anything like that. So they'd have chemical toilets and whatever, but they'd build beautiful little things just to escape their day-to-day, cubicle life and what have you. And I think that's what we're seeing here a lot, is we're seeing a lot of people, especially during the pandemic. We're seeing people doing the same thing again and again and again in the same space with the same people, and there's no escape. There's nothing to put their creative energies into. It's been a really hard winter. Hard spring, hard summer, hard winter. But you're seeing a rise in handicrafts. People doing old school things like puzzles, which have a very tactile feel, but you're thinking with your brain and you're putting these things together. You're seeing people take up hobbies and what have you. And role playing, I think, is one of those outlets. It gives people an escape from the norm.
Cool.
Yeah. So
just as a quick note, I remember Stephanie, Nathan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so her grandparents had one of those little lots, and I went out there one day with them, and they had a tiny little shed, and they had this little patchwork garden, and a whole bunch of them, like a whole group of them, and they were old and they would go out on the weekends and stay most of the day. So it's a great little thing they did out there.
That's really cool.
It's. I mean, I knew families in Germany. I was like, oh yeah, we're going to our Schrebergarten this weekend. And it's like just the whole weekend. They're out in this little thing just to get away from the city and embrace nature, embrace something a little bit different. And it was just wonderful for them. I wish we did something like that here.
Would be nice. Not going to happen. Ooh. Sorry, cancel something here. Almost deleted something.
You were letting me go from the podcast already.
Nah, not yet. We're not done.
We're done with you.
We're starting to divert from. Right, we started out as a role play. Now we're going to start talking about gardening, and we're going to do a return to nature podcast.
Bird watching.
That's right. we do lots of things.
New York. There was a big article in that about how people in Manhattan are embracing bird watching, because they're you could do it outside and get away to the park, and you don't have to do it around anybody else. I mean, I grew up outside of Manhattan, over the river, and what they did in that time, I never expected to find bird watchers in Manhattan.
Yeah, one of them, you gotta watch out because some lady might throw a dog at you. But anyway, you've had a lot of real world experiences away from role playing. How do you think that's influenced how you actually play the games?
It's definitely. It's changed me as a person. Traveling the world, meeting people from all over, from Asia, the Middle East, Europe, seeing bits of history. But it just finding out that people all over are basically the same. We're all kind of like we all just we don't like to go to work, but we do. We get our money, we come home. We want to spend the time with our families, or we don't. And then we want to go to bed, and we want to be left alone on the weekends. Everybody's kind of the same. There's no you cross a border and then you just meet an alien race of people. It's not how it works. But seeing these cultures and seeing how even a space of a few miles, can change an entire people in their what they eat and what they see and what they have, but it's all understandable where you just went over that mountain range and they're in a different valley and a different flower grows there, so your cows make a different cheese, and therefore you have a different festival at that time of year. It brings a whole new perspective, where I didn't think about where my characters came from in the past, or I didn't think about their race that much other than the stats bonuses they gave me. Now I like to think about, what's their society like? What is my character part of that? What's, how does that affect it? In some games I get to play that out. I get to really enjoy it. I have a game right now that I'm in where I'm playing a Kenku, and he is an outcast. And he thinks he's cursed because he can actually form his own, in a way, he can form his own ideas. Which, if you look at the Kenku race, they pretty much mimic everything they see. And for him to be able to have an original idea, it was already a problem. He was beaten, he was cast out. Now he grew up in a different human society, and he thinks that there's something wrong with him. For a long time, he thought he was cursed. So yeah, just thinking about that, it adds a whole new spin on how you play games.
Cool. Well, I guess, is there anything else that you'd like the listeners to know about you?
I mean, I've done a lot in my time. I'm very grateful for it. I've met some wonderful people, met some non-wonderful people. Hey, look, I don't yuck anybody's yum. I don't, I'm really happy for the experiences I've had. I mean, Sean will come in and he'll, oh yeah, Tier's done this. Did you know he was at 9/11? And did you know that he did this stuff? He chased anthrax across the country or whatever. I'm like, those are the worst experiences I can think in my life. He highlights those. He goes, oh, you've done all that. I'm like, those are terrible experiences. Like I couldn't sleep at night during some of that stuff. Not the great stuff.
Did you forget he's an Irish Catholic? Those are the good days.
That's true. Yeah. Oh, you must feel guilty of that. I learned a lot of things about the Irish that I thought did not know were real. Because I spent most of oh yeah, he's really Irish. Then I went to Ireland. I spent time out there. I still to this day will never trust an Irish person when they give me directions. I'm sorry, I know that's racist, but I've had experiences with directions in Ireland my entire life. I'd probably still be there if I took directions to get out of the country. But I love the fact that I've seen and done a lot, and I know you guys have done too. And it's nice to be able to talk to somebody who's done and been some of the same places and done some of the same things. Because when I talk about it, like I grew up poor. I mean, we were barely able to get by. I was lucky we had a roof over our heads and, we could afford to put meals on the table, but it was tight. And, reading these stories about seeing the worlds and any world and, studying geology originally in school before I switched over. And I started in English. I started as a chemical engineer. That's how I applied to college. Immediately got there, switched to English lit, and then switched to English lit and geology. But I was the only geologist they'd ever met or graduated who had done his senior seminar in Shakespeare instead of field camp. I couldn't afford it at the time. But yeah, so I came from, I didn't have I saved up my money, bought my own cars, working after school at paper routes. I did everything, and I never thought I'd get to see the world. And so my whole goal going through school and whatever was one of the things is I want to see more of the world. And I was lucky to land a job. And then while I was in that job, find a position that let me do that let me start by going to Germany and then, the rest of Europe and then later on Asia and then everywhere else I've been, I've been all over, and I was lucky and it was fantastic. And I wish for everyone to have those kind of experiences. If that's what they want, if they want to get out, expand their minds, do it. I mean, absolutely do it.
So, Nate, if you'll indulge me, I think I'm going to add a question to the list for all the rest of them. Because I think it's one that I kind of remit for not adding in there. So,
is missionary.
Why does Tier talk so much?
No.
No, that's Sean.
Why? What? So why can't you shut the fuck up?
That's it.
No, it's funny. I forgot to put them on the list, and we can edit some of the. But so how would you? So what has the effect of COVID been on gaming, good and bad, for you?
I mean, I gotta say, I really enjoy the sensation of being at a table with people that face to face, because it's easy to get distracted by my other monitor, by my phone, by whatever else is going on in the house.
So much porn.
so much. Like the girlfriend's kids are, asking for snacks and got to go to bed. So I enjoy that face to face. However, the upside is that I'm gaming now more than I ever did before the pandemic, because we can carve out 1 or 2 hours that we can all find together in our houses where, Matt, you put your kids to bed, or I've got the girlfriend's kids tonight, or I don't, or, we can all find a little bit of time together, and physical distance isn't a thing. So I can game with my friends on the West Coast if I wanted to, or, anything. Like I was in last year, this time, we started playing online because I was working in Puerto Rico during earthquakes. That was fantastic. During the middle of a game, I got to dive under a table because the building is shaking that I'm in. So it really there's a lot more flexibility like that. And it's a sign of a good game is if you've got your people engaged enough that you can, that you could see that this is all they're doing, is they're in the story and what have you. That's why it's a detriment to big games online. Big groups makes it a little bit harder, especially if if everybody else is doing something else, like I'm doing this in the background of the video and you're doing this and I'm doing it. It makes it hard to focus. But if you're weaving a good story and you're really into it, you know it. You know when your players are paying attention.
Yeah, I find our sessions go by super fast, even with so many people. We've got a pretty big group. So,
all right, I've got a question that you should ask for me.
Sure.
You should ask me if I'd like to parlay.
So speaking of that, someone's got if you got a good font or something, and you cut, Kupo's looking for graphics stuff. We should I took a picture of those, a pair of dice, one with the 20 and one with the 1.
Yeah.
And that's like the balance. We needed like a parlay. We need some sort of parlay.
in fancy calligraphy.
Where he's holding up the stereo and just change that out. It just says parlay.
Parlay.
For people who are not, who are listening to this audio, we had a game that Nathan was running previous to this, where I'm playing a paladin, and we were going to attack this deal with this fortress full of hill giants. My character decided to parlay with them to see if there was a peaceful way of going about this first, and the rest of the party was never let him forget that, because while he was trying to do this, they attacked the other side of the fortress by themselves and got routed. So
yeah,
they blame him somehow.
Got their ass handed to them. Yeah,
that's right.
How would you attack a whole fortress, an armed, fortified fortress of hill giants during the day?
Well,
yeah,
I can agree with
much
you.
Better, but
I can agree with you. Darg saw no problem in it.
Darg marches to the beat of his own drum. I mean, it's
all right. Well, Tier, thanks for sitting down and talking with us. We look forward to glad you could connect with the listeners, and you can look forward to hearing Tier in many of our stories. So until then, thanks a lot from me, Matt,
Nathan,
and me, Tier.
All right, great. Till next time. Like us, follow us, send us money, anything you want to do. All right, this is the Advanced Age Role-Playing Gamers podcast, Meet the Cast with Tier. Thank you very much. Bye.